Stay with me on this one. What you're about to learn changes the way you think about silence forever. Picture total darkness. No light, no shapes, nothing. Now imagine surviving in that darkness, hunting, moving, staying alive, using nothing but sound. Have you ever felt like something was watching you, and you couldn't explain why? For one bird, that feeling isn't a feeling, it's a system so precise it can find a heartbeat under 3 feet of snow. And here's the part that changes everything. This bird's ears aren't even lined up. One sits higher than the other. That's not a flaw. That's the source of the whole system. Stick around, because by the end of this, you'll never look at an owl the same way again. Let's go back to the forest. Late. Quiet. The kind of quiet that feels like it's hiding something. You're standing under bare branches and somewhere above you something is watching. Not moving, not blinking, barely. Just processing. This is where the story of the owl really begins. Not with wings, not with those famous eyes, with sound. Most people assume an owl finds its next meal by sight. Sharp eyes in the dark, right? That's the story everyone tells. But here's what most people overlook. An owl's eyes are almost useless in true darkness, fixed in their sockets. Can't roll them side to side like we do. So when the forest goes pitch black, vision checks out of the game entirely, and that's exactly when the real system switches on. You're being tracked, not by eyes, but by an instrument built to catch a sound so small, so brief, you wouldn't even notice you made it. A mouse shifting its weight under snow, a vole's claws scratching bark, a heartbeat's worth of movement. Now here's a question worth sitting with for a second. What if survival depended on being completely silent, and something out there could still hear you breathe? That's the world prey animals live in every single night. So how does the owl pull this off? It starts with the face. Look closely, really closely, and that flat disc-shaped face isn't just for looks. It works like a satellite dish, funneling every scrap of sound straight toward the ears hidden underneath the feathers. But the real secret, the part almost nobody talks about, is what's underneath. The ears themselves, they're not where you'd expect, not symmetrical, not level. One sits noticeably higher on the skull than the other. Let that sink in for a second, because it's the whole key to everything. 2 ears positioned at different heights means every sound reaches them at a slightly different time and a slightly different volume. A few thousandths of a second. That's it. That's all the gap is. But that gap is enough for the brain to build something incredible, an internal map, a 3D location, built entirely from timing differences too small for us to even register. This isn't guesswork. This isn't luck. This is a technical diagnostic running in real time. Every second the bird is awake. Vertical position, horizontal position, distance, all calculated from sound alone. And once that internal map locks onto a target, the outcome is almost already decided. We're going to break down exactly how that mapping works, piece by piece, because once you understand it, you'll realize this bird experiences the world in a way something no one in history experienced firsthand. Not truly, not from the inside. If this is blowing your mind already, that's a good sign you're going to want to see where this goes. Stick with me. Okay, let's get into the mechanics, but I promise, no boring lecture here, just the good stuff. Think of the owl's brain as a control room. 2 ears feed it constant streams of data, timing and loudness. The brain's job is to compare those 2 streams instantly over and over. If a sound hits the lower ear a split second before the higher one, the brain flags the source as coming from a certain angle below. If it hits both ears at slightly different volumes, that tells the brain how far left or right the sound is. Stack those 2 clues together and you get a location, not an estimate. A location. Some owls can pinpoint a sound's origin within a single degree of accuracy. Try to picture that. That's like closing your eyes in a stadium and pointing at the exact seat where someone dropped a coin. And the facial disc we mentioned earlier, it's not passive. This bird can flex those feathers, reshaping the dish on demand, tuning it like an antenna searching for a signal. Here's the detail that really gets me every time I think about it. None of this requires a single beam of light. This entire targeting system operates whether it's a moonless night or a blackout in a cave. Which means, for this bird, darkness isn't a disadvantage. Darkness is home field. But a system this refined comes with a price. Here's what most people never think about. A targeting system this sensitive can't afford interference. Every extra sound, wind, rustling leaves, the bird's own wing beats, becomes noise that could throw off the calculation. So evolution had to solve a second problem entirely. How do you fly in total silence? Because if the hunter makes noise, the prey hears it coming, and the whole system falls apart before it even gets used. This is the quiet tragedy hiding behind every hunt. This bird carries an extraordinary gift, but it only works if it approaches like a ghost. One creak, one flutter, one gust catching a stiff feather wrong, and the target is gone. Every night it's a race against exposure, and for the animals on the other end of that hunt, it's usually a race that ends in a natural cycle as old as the forest itself. A survival struggle written into the food chain long before any of us were watching. There's no easy way to soften that part of the story. It's simply the reality of how this system was built to be used. So how does a bird fly through a forest without making a sound? This is where the story gets almost unbelievable. Look at the edge of one of its wing feathers under a microscope, and you'll find something no other bird has. A soft comb-like fringe, like tiny teeth lining the edge. That fringe breaks up the air passing over the wing. Instead of one loud rush of wind, the air gets split into thousands of smaller, quieter streams. The result? The sound of flight drops below what most prey can even detect. Combine that with a velvety, sound-absorbing texture across the rest of the feathers, and you get something remarkable. A hunter that moves through the night in near total silence. Now put the whole system together in your mind. An internal map built purely from sound, a face shaped to gather every whisper of noise, and wings engineered to make sure the hunter itself creates none. 3 separate adaptations working as one machine, and once that machine locks onto a location, there's very little that can be done about it. This is why, out of every predator in the animal kingdom, this one might be the most quietly devastating. Not the fastest, not the strongest, the most precise. Every hunt plays out the same way. Silence, a shift in the internal map, a drop from above, and then the tragic end of a story that started with a single tiny sound the prey didn't even know it made. It's brutal, it's efficient, and it's been happening this way for millions of years, long before humans ever looked up into the trees and wondered what was looking back. So the next time you're standing in a quiet forest at night, and that quiet feels heavier than it should, ask yourself the question we started with. What if something was listening, and you never even knew you made a sound? If this changed the way you think about silence, let me know in the comments. Which part caught you off guard? And if you want to keep uncovering secrets like this one, the next mystery is already waiting.